think he'd make all his employees buy his cars. He doesn't. Some say Tesla is the big reason Austin is such a racket now. This new factory helped to drive up the home prices, and a lot of the workers, they're not locals. Even the local rag isn't a fan of all Elon's hijinks. I'm surprised he didn't sue him for that. And Elon Musk says one day he wants to build his own town not too far from here. All this new growth in Texas just keeps going and going, doesn't it? Austin, Texas. Or just Austin. It's kind of not Texas here. It hasn't been like the rest of the state for a long time. Travis County was always this left-leaning little blue dot in the state. Keep Austin weird, everyone said. Now it's full-fledged liberal far left as you can get, crazy land.
We just want to kill ourselves after what you made of the world. Can you blame us?
Because there's a lot of that. But we're going to begin this by talking about the bad stuff. Because I got to keep your attention.
Drugs, yeah, and bombs, yeah. The two things you can focus on, yeah.
One of Austin's worst neighborhoods.
So 3-4 years ago, this was the most drug-plagued street in the city.
The guy talking's my buddy Jeff. He's an Austin police officer. We drove around together one day when I was here.
Oh God, you friends with a lot of cops?
And he showed me around.
You lost me, and I'm sorry you did. You lost me with that, though. You actually lost me with that. That's fucked up. I liked your video until you said that. And then I was like, oh. Complete liar. What? 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 forgot that they're mentally retarded, guys. I'm terribly sorry. There we go. Oh man, look at how bad the triple anus is and how much dick they suck, guys. I'm terribly sorry. Sorry about that. I forgot that Overwatch and OBS suck so much dick. Sorry. Hey, you know, they're free, right? So. What? Yeah, good job, you fucking idiot. Get owned. Defeat. How was it a defeat? You didn't dip shit, bitch. I fought all 5 of you. I wasn't good enough to beat all 5 of you. I beat 3 of you, didn't beat all 5. We lost. The other 4 guys, they got a total of 13 kills. I got 13. That's the actual fucking reality in your fucking world. I did the math. Sorry I didn't get 14 kills and win the match. Sorry. But the other guys, they don't deserve to be on a shooter. They should be playing Terraria. They're very bad.
Have you ever seen something in a game that you couldn't explain? You'd try telling your friends about it or try showing them, but you couldn't replicate it? Well, it's 2003, and upon getting to school, your friend runs...
Jesus Christ, watching you like write scripts for these like 50 billionth copy scripts. Oh good, Bill Clinton got named? Good, good. I hope they prosecute them all.
Epstein died in prison in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges.
Tonight, we're getting a glimpse of what's to come when previously redacted court documents are released this week tied to Jeffrey Epstein. They're expected to reveal names of more than 100 people associated with the late sex offender. And according to ABC News, Bill Clinton will be on that list.
Bill Clinton will be on that list.
Jeffrey Epstein's associates
Bill
will have their
Clinton.
names made public for all to see. It's because a federal judge last year requested the unsealing of documents related to Virginia Joffrey's settled lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors.
The term very sexual is abuse straight away from both of them. I got paid $200 and the butler drove me home.
Joffrey accused Maxwell of recruiting her when she was just 15 years old and facilitating repeated assaults by Epstein and others, like Prince Andrew.
Virginia Roberts has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever making this lady.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth. And I know that's me.
Joffrey has alleged Epstein and Maxwell directed her to have sex with Prince Andrew and several other prominent men.
Elon tells me that I have to do for Andrew what I do for Jeffrey. And that made me sick.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
While many on this list are expected to be either publicly known, Epstein's employees, or people who had flown on his planes, it may also include alleged victims. But the most scrutinized will be the John Does. ABC News has identified former U.S. President Bill Clinton as Doe 36, and he is reportedly mentioned in more than 50 of the redacted filings. ABC has said that the documents show no indication of illegal activity by Clinton, and while Joffrey has made no allegations of wrongdoing by the former president, she maintains that she met him on Epstein's notorious island, which Clinton has said he never visited. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 on 5 of 6 counts related to the abuse and trafficking of underage girls. She's appealing her conviction. Epstein died by hanging in his jail cell in 2019 while pending trial on charges of child sex trafficking. His death was ruled a suicide.
Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Ari Goldkind tonight to talk more about this. And Ari, first of all, what's your take on this list and what are you expecting to see as the documents are unsealed?
So I have two takeaways for this purported list, and I use the word list in air quotes because people tend to think, who don't know the story or the details of this going back decades, that it's Ghislaine Maxwell's black book. The list of the men, the rich men, the billionaires, the politicians that allegedly hired and made these business transactions for allegedly underage girls. This is not that list. This is not Ghislaine Maxwell's black book. So a lot of people watching this think there's going to be something very salacious here, and we'll get into Bill Clinton in just a second. But I don't expect anything salacious here. These are names, over 100 or so, that have been vetted by a U.S. judge. The people named in this list were given an opportunity by the judge to try and keep their names excised. They did not do it, and quite frankly, to many people's surprise, Clinton didn't object to it either.
So while we won't know who exactly paid for sex from minors when the documents come
They
out,
all did.
we'll still have days
All
of
of them.
outrage online, and then what? Could there be further investigations called, especially with politicians potentially listed here?
Well, I think there will be. So here's where I think it becomes interesting, but more from a behind the scenes, a bunch of names that people have never heard of. They're really, a lot of names on this list are unindicted co-conspirators. What that means, and a lot of people watching this will remember the name R. Kelly. Now, what's the link between R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein? Well, it's the same allegation of men who would be predatory with children. These are not young women, these are children. And the way they got R. Kelly, and remember, Epstein's dead, Kelly was alive, is alive, is through unindicted co-conspirators, racketeering charges. Now, that's not an episode of The Sopranos or Goodfellas. In the United States, through conspiracy law, that's really what this is. You look at the octopus and you look at all of the tentacles. Who were the pilots? Who were the people in the hotel rooms? Who were the bellmen that would see the young girls come in or maybe slip them a 20? I'm just making up an example. So even though Epstein's gone, and I think this will raise a lot of questions on why he died on the morning of a really interesting data dump, which I think that question is still a live one when you get into his death. People are right to ask questions about that. But this will really show the extent, whether it be billionaires or people who were simply servicing, and I use that term in a very non-pun-intended way, Epstein's sordid needs. That's some of the names, or those are some of the names we'll see on the list. But again, I don't think it will be the kinds of names that people are waiting to hear. Mar-a-Lago, Trump, Dershowitz, who's always claimed innocence and he's been smeared. It's not that kind of data dump we're expecting, but again, it is the tale that somehow keeps on going, because the real thing that people want to know are who are the men, if any, that were predators with these children. I don't expect this list to answer that question.
So Ari, will we ever see a list that would answer that question?
Going forward from this, I don't think that black book list, if it was ever going to come out, you would think that would have been something Ghislaine Maxwell offered to her prosecutors before she was convicted in a very bizarre prosecution, and she got 20 years in jail. And really, she's in jail because Epstein is dead. You can hate what she did if you accept and believe that she did it, but she's really paying the price for him. So I would have expected her at some point, if there was really an appetite for the U.S. government, which again, you would think the U.S. government would have an interest in that list. Why don't they? Why didn't they? What might they be protecting? But obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell didn't deal it, and I have a feeling we're not going to hear or ever see it.
Well, you're certainly asking all the questions we're thinking about. That's Ari Goldkind with us tonight on Trending Now. Thank you, Ari.
Great to be with you.
I don't know if you've heard about the Jeffrey Epstein list that was recently released. It wasn't exactly a list. Basically, it was a bunch of documents that were released website, the court document website, completely crashed. Okay, Elaine, who was an accomplice and participant of what Jeffrey Epstein did, there were some names that were in these documents that
Thank you,
Elaine and
Nora
her
Jasmine.
attorneys,
I've
they
liked and subbed to your
filed a
channel.
motion to suppress these names. Now, because this deadline passed where some of these John Does could have asked for their names not to be suppressed, essentially what happened is that there was a deadline that expired, and so now these documents have been released. That's like the short little quick version so that I can get to this point, okay? I have found one of them, which is Exhibit N. So now that we have this, not just this Exhibit N, but there's like so many other documents. I'm gonna put this video up now, but I kind of want to go through this list and really dig deep and search, figure out what I can find about the people who may be relevant. And you know, it may be nothing, it may be something. I may do all that and feel like it's not worth making a video. Maybe I will. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Exhibit N contains, it says here, Defendant Ghislaine Maxwell's third supplemental disclosures. So it says here, identities of individuals likely to have discoverable information relevant to disputed facts alleged with particularity in the pleadings. So the reason why people think this list is important is because these are people that Ghislaine wants to bring to explain the facts in her favor. And they talk about what they may know and how they're sort of related. So you've got Ghislaine and Virginia, the two parties. So they would obviously have knowledge that is relevant to the facts in the case. And then you have Kathy Alexander. It says Ms. Alexander has knowledge about matters at issue, including plaintiff's whereabouts during 2000 and 2002 and her false claims concerning defendant and others. And then it says Miles Alexander, and it's the same description. Then there's James Michael Ostrich. They say he has knowledge concerning matters at issue during 1992. Then you've got some attorneys. Philip Barden, he's an attorney based out of the UK. He has knowledge concerning press statements made by the plaintiff and defendant 2011 to 2012. My mistake, it's 2006, not 2012. At issue in this matter. Then you also have a redacted name. From what I read, some of the remaining redactions were the Jane Does, the minor females who were minors at the time of the thing, and so that's why they're protected. Then you have another attorney, and this attorney is based out of New York, David Boyd or something, I don't know how to pronounce that. It says they have knowledge concerning matters at issue in the complainant and in the plaintiff's pleadings and sworn statements and other litigations, including in particular her publicly filed allegations concerning defendant and Alan Dershowitz. So Alan Dershowitz came up a lot. If you guys will remember, I made that video, like it's been like 2 years now, where I talked about Epstein's client list. I'll link it below, where I basically went through the flight logs and the black book, as well as other connections that have been known. And if the names kind of were coming up often and there seemed to be a shady link, I mentioned them and explained like what I had. It was like allegedly, allegedly. So it's interesting because Alan Dershowitz definitely came up there. This is not new. Like, so from me, just generally looking through here, Clinton, but his longtime aide, his name is Doug Band. No, longtime advisor. Okay, he was there too. Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, Trump, Bill Gates, like those names we've already known and heard. So that's like not new news. So then we have Laura Booth, who works at the Mar-a-Lago Club. It says Ms. Booth has knowledge concerning matters at issue, including the date that Sky Roberts began working at the Mar-a-Lago Club and the human resources department at Mar-a-Lago. So that was the connection with one of the victims who worked there, I think. And then you've got Evelyn Goulet. Ms. Boulay may have knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendant. Rebecca Boylan. Ms. Boylan has knowledge concerning plaintiff during relevant time period, including claims for damages, motive, and bias. Then you've got Joshua Bunner, who has knowledge concerning plaintiff's credibility, including false claims of SA. And then you have Carolyn Casey. Ms. Casey may have knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendant. Then there's Paul Castle, South University Street, Salt Lake City, at law.utah.edu. So I don't know if that's like some sort of law professor at the University of Utah. I haven't Googled these names. I'm going to slide this with you. So yeah, I'm trying to just give it to you quick right now because I wish I had this to look at. But I might want to take more time and really dig deeper as the information comes out. But we'll see, because I was working on another video before this happened, and it's all cluster fucking right now. Okay, so Sharon Churcher, Salem, New York, has knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's statements. Alexandra Cousteau, knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendant and others. And then we've got Alan Dershowitz. Okay, knowledge concerning plaintiff's false statements to the press in court proceedings, plaintiff's more testimony matter. Dr. Mona Devanisan, who has knowledge about matters at issue, including plaintiff's whereabouts during 2001 damages and damages. And then there's Bradley Edwards, who I'm pretty sure is Virginia's attorney. False statements to the press, more testimony, all from knowledge concerning victims to use science.inc or stop. Amanda Ellison, again, statements. Amanda Ellison has knowledge concerning plaintiff's false allegations. Kimberly Espinosa, same thing. Plaintiff's false allegations, knowledge of that. And then Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. Epstein has knowledge concerning false statements to the press. Okay, then you have Annie Farmer. False statements. Alexandra Fakai, like from Frederick Fakai, like the hair, because I know Frederick Fakai was on the list. It's like a hair salon, hair guy. Very famous. A lot of hair products, and they're pretty good. So I don't know if she's maybe his daughter or some sort of relative. Crystal Figueroa has knowledge concerning matters at issue, including activities in 1962. Anthony Figueroa, same description. Louis Freeh may have knowledge concerning travel of Bill Clinton. Okay, so not new. You already know that he was on the fly logs and stuff. Eric Gani, knowledge concerning plaintiff's whereabouts during 2000 and 2002 and her false claims against defendant. Meg Garvin, Lewis and Clark Law School, knowledge concerning matters at issue, including victims refused violent plaintiff's damages. And then you've got Sheridan Gibson Butte, knowledge of plaintiff's false claims against defendant. Robert Dufresne, that's Virginia's one of her last names. It may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including activities considered witness to and condemned allegations. Ross Gow, acuity representation. Mr. Gow may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including the press from 2011 to 2015 concerning defendant. Fred Graff, knowledge concerning plaintiff's false statements against the defendant. Philip Guderian, knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's activities from 1962. And then you have redacted. Shannon Harrison, concerning plaintiff's false claims. Victoria Hazel, plaintiff's false claims. Rick Henderson, concerning matters including victims refused damages. Brett Jaff, false claims concerning Ms. Maxwell, including her compliance with any disposition subpoena in the CVLA matter. Carol Roberts Kess. Ms. Kess may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's activities from 96 to 2002. Dr. Karen Kudikoff. Dr. Kudikoff may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including clinical whereabouts from 1998 to 2002. And plaintiff's damages. Peter Listerman may have knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendants. And then we've got Ryan Skyhorse Publishing Inc. Knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's false claims. Bob Meister. Mr. Meister may have knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendants. Jamie A. Mellis, Florida, Coconut Creek, Florida. Mr. Mellinson has knowledge concerning plaintiff's honesty and truthfulness. Lynn Miller, Penrose, Colorado. Ms. Miller may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's art activities during 96-2002. Sorry, I got excited because I looked ahead, and 49 is Marvin Minsky. I mentioned him in my previous video. This guy is so Marvin Minsky. Then we've got David Mullen, knowledge of the plaintiff's false claims.
What?
Same thing. Mary Kaluga, same thing with the false claims. Stanley Pottinger from South Salem, New York. Mr. Pottinger may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's attempts to sell her story to the media and her contacts with the media. Joseph Ricari from Royal Palm Beach, Florida. Mr. Ricari may have knowledge concerning plaintiff's defendant. Michael Reader. I feel like that's like a. I mentioned him in the list, or I've heard his name before. Michael Ryder, that's a police officer. I just googled it. I was curious. And then Jason Richards, it says Federal Bureau of Investigations. It says Mr. Richards has knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's statements concerning defendant Alan Dershowitz and other individuals. Bill Richardson, this is a familiar name, has knowledge concerning false claims. Oh, that's the New Mexico mayor guy.
Oh.
When did he
Oh.
September 1st, 2023. Oh, he just died recently. Well, his connection is well known. I have like a bunch of Epstein videos. They're so old though. The first two are, I think I have a 2 or 3-parter. I think it's a 3-parter. It's so early in my channel that is the most cringe-worthy thing ever. But the information is good. But like the way I was talking, the way I was editing was like so cringe. But the information is good. But I talk all about just like the whole thing. Sky Roberts.
I'm sure you do.
Mr. Roberts may have knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's activities during 96-2002. Then you've got Scott Rothstein, U.S. Bureau of Prisons. He has knowledge concerning plaintiff's civil claims against Jeffrey Epstein. Forrest Sawyer has knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims. Doug Schotel has knowledge. Cecilia Stein, knowledge of false claims. Mark Tafoya, knowledge of false claims. Brent Tyndall, no description. So Brent Tyndall was in Epstein's Black Book on page 82. Kevin Thompson has knowledge concerning plaintiff's credibility, including false claims of sexual assault. Ed Tuttle. Knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims against defendant. Emma Vagan, same description. Emma Vagan Edwards, Vagan Edwards has knowledge concerning facts relevant to this dispute and Ms. Maxwell's character, Elaine's character. So these people, we have friends. Crescenda Valdez, knowledge concerning plaintiff's false claims. Anthony Valadares, knowledge concerning matters at issue, including plaintiff's activities, 96-2002, Melissa Vasquez. Knowledge plaintiff's false claims. Vicky Ward is a very familiar name. False claims. Then you've got Jared Weisfeld. We have knowledge concerning matters at issue. Courtney Wild at the Pinellas County Jail. Plaintiff's false claims against defendant. Daniel Wilson. Address unknown at this time. Mr. Wilson, knowledge concerning matters at issue. Activity 96-2002. Then you've got Lisa York. Andrew Albert Christian Edwards, aka Andrew. The Duke has knowledge concerning plaintiff's false statements of press in court proceedings and in sworn testimony of both events of 1999, 2002. 78, there's no name or anything. It says witness identified by plaintiff in any of the versions. Witnesses whose identities can be identified in law enforcement reports located in other witnesses. Maxwell reserves her right to supplement these disclosures as additional witnesses are allowed in the process. Documents, data, compilations, tangible things, news articles. So it says documents. Okay, so these are news articles that are to be used to support the defendant's claim. Sorted friends and why he isn't fit for the job. Virginia Roberts, Margaret Jeffrey Epstein. Girl says I'm Jeffrey Epstein's accusing was not a sex slave, but a money-hungry sex kitten, her former friends say. What the heck is this? Twat claims she was underage sex slave that exclusive Prince email from Ross Gow to various news organizations. January 2nd, 2015. Lawyers acknowledge mistake in filing sexual misconduct charges against Professor Dershowitz. Wasn't Alan Dershowitz the guy who defended Harvey Weinstein? Jane Doe. Versus Scott Lawson, Bradley Edwards. Okay, so we'll just do another attorney. Employment records, law enforcement records. Excuse me, sorry, it's late, I'm tired. Defendant is a right to identify additional documents, data compilation. Right now, I think this is enough for the time being, because I don't want this to be just like dragging on with no useful information. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I don't know what I was expecting, but you know, I wasn't expecting this. Then again, I don't know. I guess I thought it was just going to be a document with a list. I didn't realize that it was just everything unsealed and then you would put it in the why would they do this? That was stupid. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys. Bye.
late nights. Man, just vibing. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna wear this here in Toronto, in one of the biggest suite in Toronto.
Before pause was invented, you know what I'm saying? Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the frosted flakes. We used to actually wrestle off of the frosted flakes.
Nobody's gonna acknowledge this for me. Puff just said we used to wrestle over the frosted flakes, and we're streaming live. That was stupid.
It was stupid.
One statement and leave us alone. I came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that. Thank you very much.
What's up with you and Jennifer, okay?
Listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Today I want to talk about Diddy, or P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Brother Love, whatever. He's had many names. There was recently a lawsuit that was filed by the singer Cassie, and she was his artist, signed to his label, but also his girlfriend for a long time. And the allegations in that lawsuit were insane. When Diddy settled with Cassie, literally after one day, I basically fell down the rabbit hole. As a result of this lawsuit and settlement, people started bringing up things, really disturbing things about sexual things that he does, violence, things he does with manipulation with artists and his label deaths that they're trying to say allegedly. My theory, my theory, don't sue me. People are saying that there's certain deaths that have surrounded him that are suspicious. I want to do what I usually do on my channel. So I'm going to give you guys the facts. Okay, we'll discuss the theories, and then you can decide for yourself. I want to go through the timeline as things happen, because when you do that, you see patterns and you see a really clear picture of how we got here. Diddy was born Sean John Combs. He was born in Harlem and he was raised in Mount Vernon in New York. So from the beginning, Diddy had some tragedy in his life. His mom, she was a model, and his dad, he was in the Air Force, but he also allegedly had connections to the drug trade. It is said that when Sean was 2 years old, he was in the car with his dad when his dad got shot, and he basically was there witnessing his dad getting shot, and his dad died. He was also in the Catholic Church. He was an altar boy as a kid, and he was sort of raised with that. So Sean actually got the nickname Puff when he was a kid, because when he was a kid, he would get angry and he would quote huff and puff, and so they started calling him Puff. So that's where it comes from his childhood. And then from there, he played sports in high school, and then he got into Howard University, where he was a business major. The thing is, he wouldn't actually graduate from Howard University. He completed 2 years and then he dropped out. The reason why he dropped out is to become an intern at Uptown Records, which was owned by Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell died in 2012, and he died of natural causes. That is the official story. But even that death, there are theories that there is something suspicious about that, which we'll get to when we get to 2020 in the timeline. I just wanted to mention that so that you keep that in mind as I tell you what happened. So during this time, when he dropped out and became an intern, he was known for throwing these crazy parties when he was in college. And they were like wild, like so many people would attend, and he kind of got a reputation and was in sort of this like party scene. When he then became an intern at this record label, he also was kind of doing parties and promotion and things like that. 1990, Puff is an intern at Uptown Records, and in 1991 he has his first scandal, which involves death. At this time, he is a promoter for Uptown Records, and one of the artists that is signed by Uptown Records is Heavy D. IBD is a rapper, and at this time, he was very popular. IBD also died, and people are also talking about what was going on there and whether that's suspicious, but again, we'll get to that. Puff is now promoting this event. He rose through the ranks pretty quickly. It's a charity basketball game, and it's at a college in New York. The gym where the basketball game was being held only had a capacity for like 2,700-ish people, but it was oversold, and so 5,000 people were in attendance. So when they reached capacity, security closed the gym and would not let people in. People that couldn't get in were pissed. What ended up happening is they basically forced their way in, broke through the doors. It was like a stampede. 29 people were injured and 9 people died.
We were there at the doorway pulling people in, trying to get them. It was bananas. I pulled friends through the door.
As you can imagine, this was a big deal at the time, and the mayor of New York, his administration, they published a report about what happened, and they blamed what happened on Puff, Sean Dye. They basically said that he hired people who were not qualified for the job, and if he had hired people that were qualified, this would not have happened, as well as the thing being oversold and over capacity. And so although he didn't face criminal charges for this, he was mentioned in that report, and that ended up resulting in lawsuits from people whose family died in that stampede. Just like with Cassie, and just like you're going to hear over and over and over again in this video, he settled with them when they sued him for this wrongful death. As I said, he rose through the ranks pretty quickly. He basically went from an intern to an executive in just a few years. Puff actually talks about how he rose through the ranks pretty quickly, and he said, quote, "I was like a wonder kid at Uptown. The first record I produced sold 2 million copies, and I'd only produced it because the producer didn't show up. My talent is definitely a gift. I don't understand where it comes from. I don't play an instrument, and I never went to school for music production, but I know exactly how a song should sound and how to give an artist direction." Some people have theories about that. They're like, he's not necessarily a wonder kid, and they criticize him. They're like, all he does is sample other people's music, and he doesn't really have this talent. But they're claiming, okay, allegedly, and this is your opinion if you agree, but people say that he sort of did the casting couch thing, and this is going to be a really common theme that you're going to hear throughout this video, is that there's sort of this, I don't know if I want to use the word initiation, but like, in order to make it in this industry, you kind of have to do sexual things with the higher ups, okay? And they're saying, people, allegedly, that that's how he got his rise to fame. He performed certain acts, and he got certain things in return. And that when he was in power, he expected the newcomers to do the same thing, sort of like this rite of passage. In 1993, he gets fired. Andre Harrell fires him. And this is why they say it happened. According to Puffy, this is why he got fired. Quote, "I was very passionate and I didn't understand protocol or workplace politics. So I got fired because there can't be two kings in one castle. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to Andre, but I was fighting so hard. He wanted to be more diplomatic and to make sure everybody felt involved." According to Andre Harrell, the reason why he fired Puffy is, quote, "I fired Puff only to make him rich. I didn't want to sit there and be the one confining Puff because the corporation was telling me to do that. I'm not built that way. I told Puff he needs to go and
This
create..."
just sounds so goddamn stupid. I'm sorry, I can't do it. My god, imagine him being this inane. All this stuff. Oh god.
Wow, I finally found it! My 3 Wii's.
Play with me.
Little for.
Final Fantasy XIII has always had a bad reputation, from its nightmare development and failed and even starless projects to its automatic battle system, corridor running range, questionable voice acting. It has been something of a black spot on the series. At least that's what I thought, but I just checked Metacritic with the intention of showing a screenshot that backs up my point, but as you can see, the critic score is mostly positive, so now I'm confused. I remember the discourse surrounding it upon release to be mostly negative for the reasons mentioned earlier, and yet when I played it back in 2012, I remember having an absolute blast. I thought everyone was crazy for not liking it, but telling people how much I enjoyed it got me dodgy looks from faceless strangers across the internet, and after a while I started to question if I was the crazy one. I've wanted to revisit Final Fantasy XIII for years, but have always been afraid to. JRPGs are a bit of a commitment time-wise, especially how I play them. And what if it is shit, and I'd just been confused or crazy back then? After all, I was only 26. I wasn't even an adult. But I'm currently off work looking after my cat who has had an operation, and I need something to do while he's sleeping, so fuck it, now is the perfect time to revisit Final Fantasy XIII. Also, there will be spoilers, but the game is 13 years old, so if you haven't played it yet, that's on you, so don't get mad. First off, that opening scene still looks incredible. I'm playing on the Xbox Series S, downloaded from Game Pass.
Wow!
I don't know if it's optimized or anything, but the lack of compression on the FMV has it miles ahead of other 360 games I've played recently on the Series S. I'm looking at you, Army of Two. I know a lot of this quality is going to be lost due to recording, rendering, and YouTube's own shitty compression just destroying the fidelity of the thing. But live and in person, it is just as good as a lot of FMV sequences from the PS4, Xbox One. Straight into the gameplay then, and to be honest, this looks great. Sure, the background's looking a little like blown up pixelated JPEGs, and the characters' fingers are kind of blocky, but the details in the environment and character faces are spectacular. Here, we're introduced to two of the main cast, a stoic and attractive ex-soldier and a black man who talks a lot and can fight a giant robot scorpion, and I can't help but feel I've done this before. Obviously, I'm talking about Lightning and Saz, two original characters from Final Fantasy. The basics of the battle system are explained. We have an active time battle gauge, and it builds up the selection ability to cost a lot. For example, attack uses at 1 bar, or you can choose to attack twice with a cost of 2 bars. Or you can just choose auto battle, and the AI will choose the best ability combination for the situation. This has been a huge point of contention since the game was released. What's the point of playing the game if the game plays itself? Etc. And as much as that point is indeed valid, I actually really like the auto battle at this early stage of the game. Abilities are limited to attack, which attacks one enemy, or blitz, which attacks multiple. I'm not spoiled for choice. There are no deep tactics this early in the game, and if auto battle is just going to select the action I was going to pick anyway, I'm grateful for the option to expedite it. I'm still pressing a button to select it. I'm still picking a target and confirming my action. I'm just cutting out the extra menu and a couple of needless steps and getting back into the action as soon as possible. In Final Fantasy VII, I just tend to hold down the circle button during mob fights anyway. Why is this any different? That's actually more automatic than this because I'm pressing fewer buttons. And everyone loves the auto attack feature in Persona 5, and you know what? I'm getting salty. After the battle, we take control of Lightning, and she honestly controls like shit. Running forward feels great, but when I change direction, she kind of snaps into it like Sonic in one of his 3D games. Enemies are visible on the field now, the carryover from Final Fantasy XII, and I honestly love this change to the series. I used to love random encounters when I was younger, but now they stress me out. It's hard to explain, but running from A to B, being stopped every few steps by a random encounter, feels like I'm driving in slow traffic in a car that won't stop stalling. But if I do the same A to B run and can see the enemies on the outside, it feels like engaging with them is my choice, and the car ride feels a lot smoother. Also, did I mention how gorgeous this game is? Soon after, the bridge lightning in Sazaron is destroyed, and we are treated to one of the worst character moments in anything. Lightning tries to use her power to cross the gap, and Saz loses his cool and grabs onto her like I grabbed hold of my dad when he left my mum. I'm not sure if it's supposed to represent Lightning being cold and leaving him, or Saz being a complete coward, but either way, it looks bad on both of them, and the anime-ness of it all is just really cringy to watch. The game then decides to give me a tutorial on chain bonuses and enemy staggering, despite already doing that in a couple of battles up to now. The short of it is enemies have a bomb with a chain gauge. Hitting enemies increases their chain bonus and builds their chain gauge. And when the gauge is full, the enemy staggers, leaving it open to increase damage. It's a bit of a wasted mechanic against weak mob enemies, but against stronger foes and bosses, it is really satisfying to use. Next, we meet Seafoot from Kingdom Hearts Snow, voiced by everyone's favourite golf ball and NFT peddler, Troy Baker. Bit of a side note here. I've been a fan of Troy Baker for years, and actually met him shortly after I moved to London, and he was an absolute sweetheart. And despite the fact that I think NFTs are a fucking mugs game, I think it's sad that the Twitter mob tried to cancel him over it when there are worse people out there doing worse things and getting away with it, but that's none of my business. Anyway, Snow is the leader of a gang of resistance fighters going up against a group called the Sanctum. Lightning is an ex-soldier from Sanctum, and this is really starting to sound like Final Fantasy VII again, isn't it? Snow's jacket changes during combat and becomes covered in patches, and I had to Google why because I thought the game had given me a weird DLC costume I didn't ask for, but it turns out the patches represent the weapon he currently has equipped, which is a really nice touch. I actually really like Snow as a character. He's like a less intense Barrett from Final Fantasy VII.
Ugh.
He genuinely cares for his friends and those around him.
Worst character in the game, hands down. Snow is the worst character of all time.
Easy to make him a bravado-filled meathead, but the bravado
and I mean this, Snow from Final Fantasy XIII is the worst character of all time. And if anybody who says different, they have no clue. No clue.
Hilarious.
Hey, Godot. Yeah? If you don't know who you gotta save, you just protect them all, right? Flashback.
Now we meet and take control of two new party members, Hope and Vanille, as they nick a flying bike and enter a new area. These two start off in the first, not strictly a corridor area, and it really highlights how sluggish and clunky the character control and camera are. We also get a tutorial explaining if you attack an enemy from behind, you get a preemptive strike, which is very silly. I understand why the devs would drip feed combat mechanics as the game progresses, to keep things simple at first so newcomers don't get overwhelmed. But something as basic as hit an enemy from behind to hit first in fight isn't the sort of thing that needs to be explained 2 hours into playtime. Back to Lightning now, and we're told about aerosols, items that are used outside of battle to give you buffs. This I can understand leaving until now, but back attacks? Come on. Aerosols, it turns out, are super useful. Fortisol, for example, boosts attack defense and casts haste for the duration of the battle. And they only seem to last as long as a fight, so saving them up for boss fights is probably the best idea. But if they're all as good as this one, I can see them actually giving me a really good edge. I actually really like this section of the game. Jumping between the three groups, Lightning and Sars, Snow, and Hope and Vanille, as they make their way through this weird alien-like structure known as Vestige. It has a great sense of urgency to it. We, as players, know the three groups are
Snow sucks so bad.
And each time the party switches, we know
God
we're one
damn
step
it.
closer to
All you've done is remind me how much Snow sucked, just like you. I'm sorry, but you don't get the sub. Nope.
Regularly. I had to override.
Nope. How about just the FF8 OST remaster? Let's see if we can get our hands on that. Yes, if I remaster, play it. Ugh. Alright, here we go. What? What?
So if you wanted to know if Donald Trump's name appears in the document dump in the Epstein case that just occurred where a lot of documents were unsealed, the answer is yes. Let me just show you one portion here from a deposition of one of Epstein's victims, referencing showing up at one of Donald Trump's properties. Here it is, page 78. It talks about did you see her in the plane or on the trip to New York engaged in any kind of affectionate or sexual contact with Jeffrey? No. With Ghislaine? No. How did it come to be that you were in the casino in Atlantic City? Answer. As we were flying, Jeffrey said, why don't you go sit in the cockpit to check out the landing? So we were sitting there, and the pilots told me to go back and tell him that we can't land in New York and that we were going to have to land in Atlantic City. Jeffrey said, great, we'll call up Trump and we'll go to, I don't recall the name of the casino.
Jägermeister is forever associated with college parties, thanks to the famous drink that sports its name, the Jägerbomb. But the spicy German liquor in the distinct green bottle had a long, winding journey from its creation back in the old country to a fun night out with your buds. And not all of it goes down smooth. Today on Weird History Food, we're uncapping the history of Jägermeister. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel and let us know in the comments below what other fruitful histories you would like to hear about. Hey, time to go home, Bob Squad. The year was 1878. The place, the extremely German city of Wolfenbüttel. Back then, Wolfenbüttel was home to a bustling mining called fire setting to warm stone, used with rock salt or potash, until it's cracked. Then they would use vinegar to cool the stone back down before extracting it. Naturally, these miners had a need for vinegar that outpaced their local small-town supply, and it was only a matter of time before someone stepped up to meet their vinegar demand. Enter Wilhelm Mast. Mast had moved from Wolfenbüttel early in the 1870s. After time spent surveying the local economic landscape, he decided he was just the man the miners needed, and he opened up his very own vinegar production plant. The Wilhelm buyer already designed the business that. As the company grew, Wilhelm's product line grew with it. Since the creation of vinegar and wine are closely linked, vinegar literally means sour wine in English. Wilhelm started fermenting wines in his production plant as well. We assumed productivity took a hit as morale went sky high. However, as the decades went on, business began to drag. And by the early 1900s, the company had racked up a considerable amount of debt. Wilhelm died in 1918. His son, Kurt, took over the family business. Kurt knew things had to change and wanted to stay afloat. So he immediately halted all of the plant's vinegar production, focusing on wine. More, he began to experiment with a drink whose name means hunt master, Hubertus's stag is just about as good a mascot as one could come up with. So it has been stamped on every bottle of Jägermeister since. Speaking of drinks in the bottle, that was the product of serious scientific mass smash bottle one. The only one that was ready to buy. Keep filling these bottles up, slap the label on it, and in 1934, just 1 year after the invention of power, Kurt's creation was finally ready for the big leagues. That same year, Germany's then second most powerful man, Hermann Göring, had assumed the role of Reichsjägermeister, or Imperial Hunt Master. Apparently a real stag. This made Göring the head of Germany's biggest hunting society. And everyone who wanted a hunting license had to go through his organization. So as Kurt Master's Jägermeister gained popularity, it naturally got a very known Hermann Göring Göring. As the world descended once more into war, Connecticut-born Sidney Frank was sent over to India by Pratt & Whitney Motors to help improve engine performance for Allied aircraft. He would later use this engineering skill to become a hooch billionaire. After the war closed, Harry left the jobs at their company, Shenley Industries, which had at the time a large distillery. Frank's first major job in the company was to head over to England, Scotch distillery, and Shenley Industries. While there, the production America and helped to grow the brand even bigger than ever before. And while Frank moved on to develop Grey Goose vodka, his European import continued its meteoric rise into the new millennium. By the mid-2000s, the company had over 1,000 Jaegerettes and Jaeger dudes under its employment. Under these circumstances, the arrival of the Jaeger bomb was inevitable. It's from this period that the first ever Jaeger bombs appeared, but it remains unclear who, or dare we say what, first created them. While Jägermeister has never officially endorsed or embraced the Jaeger bomb, its rise and fall in popularity has had a huge impact on the company's overall success. But as other drinks like Fireball and flavored vodka have risen up in recent years to take over a large chunk of Jägermeister's college party market share, the company has had to pivot, just like when you need to switch to water after too many Jaeger bombs. In 2015, Jägermeister bought up the Sidney Frank Importing Company, allowing it to take full control over its own U.S. distribution. They've since used that acquisition as a springboard for their pivot, turning away from their youthful party past in an attempt to reach an older, more upscale audience. It was around this time that the Milwaukee Bucks introduced their newest logo, which bore some resemblance to Jägermeister's presumably hammered stag. Jägermeister immediately filed a formal notice of opposition to the new Bucks logo, but apparently the two just had to get to know each other. Just days later, a spokesman for Jägermeister said they were now working with the team, and shortly thereafter launched the Be the Meister campaign, which brought the new super premium Jägermeister Manifest onto the market. Manifest contains more ingredients than traditional Jägermeister, and is slightly more potent for refined drinkers who like to get tipsy while listening to opera. They've also since developed Jägermeister Cold Brew Coffee, which boasts the caffeine of a Jaeger bomb, but in a classier all-in-one bottle, and the Jägermeister Sharp, which is just like the regular Jägermeister, but with a spicy hot ginger taste. Regardless of which Jägermeister product you choose, to this day, each bottle's label sports the same words that Jägermeister sported for just shy of a century. An excerpt from a poem by German ornithologist and writer Oskar von Riesenthal. It is the hunter's honor that he protects and preserves his game. Hunts sportsmanlike, honors the creator in his creatures. So what do you think? Do you like Jaeger? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our Weird History Food.
Aw.
Like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Don't
you
even
just
talk to me about it.
He put me in a headlock one time.
What? Winston Churchill's alcohol consumption was legendary, yet somehow he managed to guide his country through a world war. But how did he do that? I called the biggest Winston Churchill fan I know to join me in living like the legend for a day. Drink for drink, puff for puff. These are Winston Churchill's preferred beverages, but quantity matters when it comes to alcohol. So we're gonna separate fact from fiction. To join me in this elaborate excuse to get drunk at work, called a friend of mine. He's a comedian, an author, host of The Political Orphanage, Andrew Heaton.
In the immortal words of Winston Churchill. Hey buddy, good morning. You ready to Churchill for a day?
I'm very excited to Churchill for today.
Okay, so Johnny Walker Red was the go-to Scotch choice. Churchill. So you have already started with what Churchill has reportedly starting with in the morning. What is that?
So there's a little bit of Johnny Walker on the bottom, and I put soda water on top. He's using it to flavor the water and also disinfect from malaria. Right. Because he picked it up during the Boer War. It's a way to make the water okay. So we're not drinking the Johnny Walker Red at this point in our day to get tippled. We're just doing it to flavor the water. Drinking throughout most of the day and smoking cigars throughout most of the day to be able to function in the role that he was in. I don't know how that works.
Sheer willpower and super genius.
I think Churchill was a prodigious thinker, but not the epic superhuman drinker we've been led on, and I think he did that intentionally. I
I think he would go, really, as I kick off the day with a scotch.
Yeah.
That way people like you do. You must be some kind of superhuman to be able to handle your day after that much alcohol. But like, he'd probably have maybe a maximum of 3 ounces. That's maximum of 3 ounces of scotch before lunch. But he's watering it down. I think probably like an ounce to an ounce.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have a problem with booze.
What?
The cigars, though.
Yeah.
Up to 10 cigars a day. We started with breakfast in bed.
Breakfast burritos?
Just like Churchill
Just like the English had.
With some food in the belly. Drink number 1 down. We're crawling out of bed, getting set up. Drink number 2.
Drink number 2. I feel as though the last Scotch flavored water that I had was not even that flavored.
It is worn off for me completely. I was feeling just the slightest little bit.
I mean, as an extrovert who enjoys drinking, this has been a great way to kick off my day. If you guys want to do this every day, let's water it down. There we go. That looks like Scotch flavored water. Sure.
Yeah, we should figure out the English things.
Okay.
Carry us through the rest of the morning.
All right. I'm making tea. What are you doing?
I'm queuing. What are you doing now?
I'm adding unnecessary U's to words in this old book.
Color.
What are you doing?
This is the last drink of the morning, right? Okay. So how you feeling so far?
I feel great. I don't know whether it's the fine company or the sunlight or the whiskey, but I feel really good. I think I should drink much more on a regular basis in the morning.
I think morning whiskey is becoming a thing.
Morning whiskey might be a thing, yeah.
I still feel the slightest trail of that second one as I'm going into the third.
I'm at that point where I'm like kind of playful and jokey, but not yet violent.
Yeah.
Which you'll see here in a minute. But for right now, though, I feel great.
To Winston.
To Winston. Ooh, I don't care for that flat. No, sir.
You were having a better time with the bubble water?
The bubble water made it, just gave it a little bit, oh, this is an interesting cocktail.
Right.
This is just, my eyes melted.
Okay, so I think this is about a reasonable time for us to get into probably the thing that Winston Churchill was even more well known for than alcohol consumption.
Defeating Hitler. Oh, cigars, right?
Yeah, that was, footnote. So we got some Romeo and Juliet. He enjoyed those quite often, but he would venture out. So later on, I'm going to pull out one of my preferred cigars. Once every couple of weeks I partake. But how often did you cigar? What was your...
I like cigars, so I give myself 1 cigar per month as a treat.
I'm going to try and take it just above the band.
Is that why the fuck the bands are there? That would actually make a whole lot of sense if there was some purpose to them besides advertising.
What is the purpose of cigar bands?
I found this on the web for what is the purpose of cigar beans. Check it out.
What the f are cigar beans? You, Siri.
Our morning of 3 scotch and sodas is now complete. Moving into the early afternoon with an ambitious quota of champagne. At his lunch, Winston Churchill would finish an imperial pint-sized bottle of champagne, not these modern 750 milliliter bottles, but we made the necessary adjustments for 2 people at lunch. Okay, lunchtime.
Lunchtime, great.
Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little buzzed.
We have to kill this bottle by the end of lunch.
Well, that's tough, but this is the life we've chosen, Rex.
How else do you save the free world?
Yeah.
We tried to come up with the most English lunch we could think of.
Fish and chips.
And then we looked around, and in Central Texas, we're going to have to drive about half an hour to get to the closest fish and chips, and it's probably not actually, by UK standards, a good fish and chips.
Right.
Did the next best thing.
Gas station fish sticks. That's what we're going to do.
Technically, if we're on pace, both of us complete a full bottle, we finish a full bottle, plus a bit more. You know how to do these?
Gross.
This is Willis, aka Blue Scooty, setting a new world record for the longest game of NES Tetris by getting the first ever level 157. But something unexpected is about to happen. He just became the first person ever to trigger a game crash, reaching the true kill screen, which is by far the biggest achievement in the 34-year-old history of the Pro Classic Tetris scene. So why is this such a big deal? And can a record like this ever be broken? To answer both those questions, we need to go back and start with the first unbeatable barrier in the game. In NES Tetris, released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1989, the goal is to assemble falling blocks to clear complete lines. For every 10 lines cleared, you move up a level and the speed gets a little bit faster. The fastest speed is reached at level 29, and at this point the pieces can no longer reliably get to the sides by holding down the side-to-side buttons. For decades, this was considered the end of the game, and level 29 got dubbed the kill screen because it always killed your run. Except it wasn't a kill screen in the traditional sense. In retro games, a kill screen normally refers to when it's impossible to get any further due to a glitch in the game's code. For example, in Pac-Man, the kill screen is reached at level 256, where a glitch garbles the entire right side of the screen and you aren't able to eat enough white dots to clear the level. NES Tetris doesn't actually have a glitch at level 29. The level is clearable if you can somehow figure out a way to move the pieces faster. And in 2011, Thor Ackerlund became the first person to reach level 30 on video by vibrating his fingers to mash the controller faster than the game's built-in speed, a technique known as hyper-tapping. And because level 29 is the maximum speed of the game, all the levels afterwards don't get any faster, so it was theoretically possible to go even higher. Thor's level world record would stand for 7 years, until a teenage hyper-tapping prodigy, Joseph Saley, broke it in 2018 by becoming the first player to reach level 31. Joseph's skill would allow him to win 2 Tetris World Championship titles in 2018 and 2019, and he slowly kept pushing the level world record upwards all the way to level 35, until an even faster hyper-tapper, Eric ICX, came along and became the first to reach levels 37 and 38. Now this was light years ahead of what anyone would have expected when the game first came out, but overall progress on the record was still slow because hyper-tapping only barely made level 29 speed possible. Deep runs into the 30s still required getting good luck with the pieces and near perfect placements with almost zero margin for error. In order to truly push things a lot further, some kind of breakthrough was needed. But then a new technique came along that would change everything. In 2020, a Tetris player named Cheese watched a video on various button mashing strategies and had the epiphany to combine a multi-finger technique by Hector Fly done on arcade cabinets and another technique that used a finger on the bottom of the controller to push it into another finger on the top. He called this new technique rolling, and it allowed him to easily reach button mashing speeds over twice as fast as the quickest hyper-tappers. He became the first player to ever reach level 40, and although a hyper-tapper named Alex Thatch would end up taking the record back, he would be the last tapper ever to do so. Over the next 2 months, there was a flurry of new records as most of the top players in the scene switched over to the new rolling technique, culminating in Eric ICX, now a roller, shattering the record in 2021 by making it all the way to level 95. With the fastest speed in the game now fully mastered, it seemed like the sky was the limit for how far players could go, but an even bigger challenge than speed was looming on the horizon. NES Tetris was originally designed with 10 normal-looking color palettes for levels 0 to 9 that were bright, colorful, and easily visible. Every time you go up 10 levels, the game then loops back around to the first color scheme. But because this game was coded in the 1980s, everything is written to try and be extremely memory efficient. So the line of code that's supposed to determine the level color glitches out starting at level 138 and starts pulling data from outside the color table, resulting in a bunch of random, bizarre color palettes that can be difficult to see. If you're into code and wondering exactly how and why this happens, Hydrant Dude has a great 2-minute explainer video on the subject that I'll link in the description. Obviously, the colors glitch wasn't a problem when the game first came out because making it to level 138 would have been a pipe dream. But now, players were actually on the verge of getting there. Technically, the first player to reach the glitch colors was Fractal161, but he opted to go for it on the much lesser played PAL version of the game, which runs 20% slower than the much more common NTSC version that is used in the World Championships and most of the main leaderboards, including this one. Eric ICX became the first person to achieve glitched colors on the NTSC version, impressively managing to get it in an actual tournament match, and making it all the way to level 146 before a particularly dim level cost him to top out. He ended ended up winning the 2022 World Championships a few months later. But now the combination of challenges with visibility and sheer endurance were starting to seriously slow down progress again, as Eric's world record game had lasted nearly 40 minutes. It took over a year before anyone was able to get past the dim level that had taken out Eric, and when a player named Pixel Andy finally managed to beat it, he got taken out by an even more difficult level featuring pieces that were nearly pitch black.
Where's the color? I can't see it! No! I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it on my screen. It's just like dark.
So what was the future of the record? Slow incremental progress at increasingly difficult to see levels? Well, turns out the most significant achievement yet was closer than anyone thought. Back in 2021, a programmer, Greg Cannon, made a Tetris-playing AI called Stacked Rabbit in order to push the game far beyond what was possible for a human. Not limited by stamina or eyesight, Stacked Rabbit was able to fly past the most difficult glitch color levels with ease, and Greg ended up coining names for each of the color schemes as they passed, such as calling the dim level that took out Eric Dusk, and the black level that took out Andy Charcoal. Stacked Rabbit would continue to play through even more bizarre glitches that happened later on, such as level 235, which lasts for 800 lines instead of the typical 10. But eventually, the game just can't function anymore.
And there's the long bar, and it's gonna crash the game with that Tetris into level 237. Its final score is 100 million.
So what's going on here? In the simplest possible terms, the game is running on code, which is instructions on what to do next, and RAM, which is its workspace where it calculates things and keeps track of what it's doing. The game's code starts to become really inefficient on very high levels because no one was expected to get this far, and eventually a glitch happens where the game switches from reading instructions from the code to reading the RAM as if it were code. If the resulting garble generates a stop command, it completely breaks the game, leading to it being called the true kill screen. If you want the full technical breakdown, again, Hybrid Dude has a great video on the topic that I'll link in the description. But here's the thing, the game crash doesn't always happen in the same spot, because the glitch can get triggered by very specific things depending on the level, such as what piece you have or how many lines you clear at once. And Stacked Rabbit was actually playing on a modified version of the game that has 7 digits in the score counter instead of 6, so it didn't have the same crash spots as an unmodified version. In 2022, there was a massive effort put into researching the mechanics of the crash, and Hydrant Dude made a spreadsheet tallying up every possible situation that could cause the crash to be triggered. Yeah, I know, the same guy again. This guy's the MVP of documenting all this stuff. And it turns out that the earliest possible trigger for the crash on the unmodified original version of the game was a single at the transition into level 155. That actually wasn't too far off from the world record. A human might actually be able to do that, provided they could get through Dusk and Charcoal. In 2023, after Fractal won the World Championships and firmly established himself as the best current player in the scene, he decided to start live streaming daily attempts to get the crash. But on the very first night of his grind, a player named Blue Scooty shocked the scene by being the first player to ever beat Charcoal and make it all the way to level 153. Not only did this set a new level world record and score world record to boot, it was only 18 lines away from the first crash. Scooty was a newer player in the scene who'd recently been on a meteoric rise, achieving a surprise semifinals finish in the 2023 World Championships. And after getting the record, he decided to challenge Fractal and start grinding for the crash himself. And later said in an interview,
You know, I just thought I was so close, I might as well race him for it and try and beat him to the crash.
But Fractal looked like he could be getting it at any moment. Less than 24 hours later, on day 2 of the grind, he had a game early on that went all the way to the level right before the glitched colors.
Are you ready?
Later on in the night, he succeeded in getting to the glitched colors, but then disaster struck when he hit Dusk.
Oh my god.
Despite not getting the game crash, this game would actually end up taking back the score world record from Blue Scooty. On day 3, Fractal started up again, ready for another evening of attempts. But just 20 minutes into the stream, the chat alerted him that Blue Scooty was currently on a big run.
Wait, what is Scooty at right now? Oh my god.
Blue Scooty was on a roll, having reached the glitched colors and easily coasted through dusk with a low board. Next up was Charcoal. He had a little bit of trouble at the beginning, but managed to clutch a line piece to the left to get the stack down to complete the level. Now it was just a matter of carrying the game to the finish line. He slowly kept downing levels, passing his old record and making it to 154. This was it. He just needed a single on the final line clear to get it. But then 4 lines in, he misdropped. Now in dig mode, he started optimizing his stack for survival instead of singles. He managed to open his board just in time to fill the longbar dependency, but oh no! He accidentally passed the crash trigger by clearing a triple instead of a single. Scooty marched onward, unsure of when he'd get another chance.
Oh my god.
The next available target was on level 157, where every 1 line clear would have a 73% chance of triggering the crash. But as Scooty entered the level, he suddenly started to misdrop again. Nothing was clearing any lines. His chances were slipping away. But in a last-ditch effort with a J piece to the left, it happened.
Oh my god!
Immediately, reactions poured in from the rest of the community.
Hey, you got it! Oh my god! Let's go!
The truly crazy thing about this achievement is that NES Tetris had always been considered an unbeatable game. No matter how good you played, eventually your board would reach the top of the screen and the game would be over. This was the first time ever where instead of the game beating the player had beaten the game. And this really feels like a turning point for the scene as a whole. At the time Cheese invented the new rolling style, he expressed concern that it was too OP and would eventually destroy the scene. But instead, it's caused the scene to have a complete renaissance. Concerns about tournament games going too long due to endless lineouts have instead been replaced by ROM patches adding a new faster speed at level 39 that resulted in exciting battles for bigger line clears that are worth more points. The level and swirl records, once thought to be getting stale as they turned into a mere endurance challenge, had suddenly given us the most exciting record chase the community had ever seen, with the world records changing hands multiple times in a single week. And now that the game crash has officially happened, there's a ton of possibilities of where the record chasing can go from here. Players could go for speedrunning the crash or trying to get the highest possible score before it.
No, Fractal, he said that he was going for an efficient crash, so I think he's definitely going to be coming back for the world record.
If he's gonna go for an efficient game crash, then I might as well, too.
And Blue Scooty, as a person, feels like a representation of the very best of what the community is. At live events, he's always been a cheerful and gracious competitor, and he's shown that hard work really can pay off, as he's said that he practices around 3 to 5 hours a day.
Do you have anything to say to the young players out there that may get inspired to play because of this historic game?
If you set your mind to something and you put work into it, most likely you will get it. If you try hard.
His first place finish at the Kansas City Regional Championship this past month was his first live tournament victory. And if you'd like to see him play live again, his next appearance will be at the Heart of Texas Regional Championship in just a few weeks. But one final question remains. After the game crash, is there any major milestone left to achieve in the game? As it turns out, the answer is yes. What if, instead of intentionally trying to get the crash as quickly as possible, you instead try to avoid it? Just how far could you possibly get? In order to push the game further beyond what humans and even AIs can currently do, some people in the community have constructed tool-assisted speedruns, aka TASes, where instead of being played in real time, every move is manually entered in. This allows them to simulate what it would look like if a player was able to avoid all the potential traps that could trigger the crash. This would become almost a fundamentally different type of challenge than any previous one in the game. Instead of being rivals, the player in the game will be working together as a team, with the player doing everything they can to ease the burden of the game's ancient code limping along.
Ancient code.
Keeping them both alive.
You mean actually good, as opposed to the modern code that sucks dick and breaks all the time? This code is not ancient. There's nothing wrong with it. It works all of the time.
If both the player and the game survived every pitfall, the final level they would reach is level 255, with a glitched color scheme of pure red. This is the last level that can be stored in the game's memory, and things are so unstable that 5 of the 7 pieces in the game could trigger the crash when falling normally, so the player basically has to push down on every piece to survive. So what happens when the level clears? It loops right back around to level 0. The game officially resets back to the beginning. If the original kill screen was the game's way of beating the player, and the true kill screen was the player's way of beating the game, beating level 255 is the rebirth screen, with both the player and the game emerging triumphant together. If it can be done someday, it will be the ultimate final achievement. Thanks so much to the patrons on Patreon. Make videos like this one and future videos possible, with an extra special thanks to channel sponsors Scott Gray and Super Anthony, the creator of Joltsy. Joltsy is a game that Anthony originally conceived of when he thought about what Tetris would look like if you played it in 3D. You arrange blocks to complete lines on a grid over the twists. If you block one on top of another one, it adds to the number on the block, and then you need to make all the numbers in that line the same value to clear. But if a number goes above 4, you top out and the game is over. The biggest possible move is a giant grid of 4 known as the Joltsy. I beta tested the game and got the top score on the leaderboard other than Anthony himself. And I can genuinely say it was a really fun game because of the genre, and I can't even imagine how high a top Tetris player will be able to score this. The game is available for early access play on February 13th, so if you'd like to play, you can either add it to your Steam wish list or follow Anthony on Twitter for future updates through the links in the description. Thanks again to Joltsy for being a sponsor, and see you in the next video.
What? Yeah, right.
This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream and Nebula. Stay tuned until the end for a first look at the trailer for the feature-length season finale, Night of the Coconut. Hello, and happy Raimi season. That's right, after 9 long years, Sam Raimi finally has a new movie in theaters. He's back! Now, for some MCU fans who want everything to look like a dull television show, this isn't very...
I didn't get a chance to talk to you about The Hateful Eight, which is one of my favorite movies last year. I absolutely love Quentin Tarantino, and I love that film. And I don't think there's a delicate way for me to say this, but your character just got the shit kicked out of her for the entire film, almost to a bizarre comedic. I mean, it was insane. It was crazy, and I'm wondering physically, how did you get through that role? It felt like in every single scene you get hit with a frying pan, tossed into a door, hit with right? I mean,
oh yeah. No, the very first day of shooting, I just had a black eye, and I remember just taking a picture of myself with my phone and saying, "This is going to be as good as it gets. Like, this is the prettiest thing."
This is how it starts with you. The black eye. Yeah. You have to have a picture of you from the movie, and that is you. That's like 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And it just
I'm looking pretty good there.
Yeah.
That's a good moment.
No, I like that some further than that, and they mess you up with everything. Let's stop here and talk about this. See, this is what's great. You forgot you were nervous, and now we're just having a conversation. You just mentioned Quentin has his own blood in a year. What are you talking about? Quentin Tarantino has his own blood?
No. Oh my God.
There you have it. Jennifer Jason Leigh says Quentin Tarantino uses his own blood in movie scenes. Well, right, go ahead. What is he? He makes up a formula.
No, there's a formula. It has a certain viscosity. It has a certain, depth of red. I mean, it's very different than any other kind of blood. And so much
Every single movie blood. It is flying everywhere.
It has to invest his own blood because it's very specific. I mean, you work with Quentin. Whatever he says are so exciting. It makes everything so much fun.
He was very concerned with his character. He said he didn't want your character to spit like a girl. He wanted you to spit in a specific way. What was he talking about?
Well, he said, like, spit for me, and I did, and he said, yeah, that's like a girl. So what he wanted was a seditious spit. So he wanted it like a dart.
Like you're a lizard.
Like,
no! If I spit, it's like... And then it's like, I mean, that's how I spit. Thank you. That's the 55th thing I do like a girl. But no, whenever I've been doing something I like jogging or something and try to spit, or I ride my bike a lot, and then I'm like, I gotta spit. It just goes all over myself.
Yeah.
So I need training from Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, he needs to train. I never spit. It's just not something
No one should.
doing.
Yeah.
So.
Why would you?
But I learned. I did learn. But you learn all kinds of skills on movies.
You know, did we have spit last week? Yeah.
Oh my god! I have 8 times the healing the other healer. What? They all have 1 health, all of them. Oh, come on. Nice. Couldn't even get on point, huh? Pussy. Fucking pussy. You were a fucking pussy. You know you were. You were a fucking pussy. You acted like it, and you threw the game. By the time you reached the point, it was over, because you're a pussy. You're a straight pussy. You got double the kills I did, but 1/10 of the heals I did. I got the same kills as you, but I also got 10 times the heal you got. And that's how you know. You're worried about your 10 kills that you got all matched rather than your job, which is tanking. And I tell you to do your job, you fucking cocksucker. Do your fucking job. Oh, watching the celebrity obsessed culture. No, it doesn't.
360 version released in 2006. However, Microsoft has gone to considerable effort over the years to improve the graphics, hardware, ability program, and all that touches the original game code. As such, Oblivion on the Xbox Series X runs at near 4K resolution and 60 frames a second. So, in short, better than any 17-year-old games are right to look on a console today. In the months following its release, bunch of expansions and downloadable content was made available, including collections of quests and player home add-ons, as well as the infamous Forza DLC. This add-on generated some controversy. Most people thought it was just a cosmetic Here's a shot of just finally on the when Oblivion was first released, I played it on day one, pretty much. Bought this on day one, pretty much. It's great. I remember having the ball. One thing that really struck me about the game is that by the end of the story, you realise you weren't the hero. You weren't the saviour of civilization. You were the saviour of the system. You kind of seem to have done most of the work, but I won't spoil the story. Let's just say that he was the saviour of Cyrodiil, was voiced by Sean Bean. No, Ned Stark. No, Boromir. Yeah, he's got a history. After I'd read about all the improvements that had been made to Oblivion on the Xbox console, I decided to embark on replaying the whole game. Oblivion runs at 720p on the Xbox 360. It's often actually reported as running at 720p, but that was just the output resolution of the console. Just remember that this is the resolution the game is rendered at. It is then automatically upscaled via hardware. The resolution was a fairly common resolution at that time. I know that all the Modern Warfare games on the 360, they all ran at 600p with 2 times anti-aliasing. As far as performance goes, on the 360, the game aimed for 30 frames a second, and I have some analysis that shows that it could hit 30 frames a second, as you can see here, which is indoors when there's not many people around and not much to draw. But in general, this was an aspirational target. Even just this mundane walk inside Coral up a hill shows that the 360's frame rate is taxed. One thing I will say, I am very surprised to have not found any screen tearing on Oblivion on the 360. So in my previous video of Bullets and Daggers, I show some still shots, and I'll show them here, of onto the Xbox One. The first improvement to Oblivion came about after the release of the Xbox for the game to load new assets into memory, and meant that the Xbox One could not make best use of its improved processing power. It was limited by memory data. Onto the Xbox One S then. The second improvement to Oblivion came about after the release of the Xbox One S in 2017. Oblivion was one of about 40 360 games that received some special treatment from the Microsoft backwards compatibility team and was given an Xbox One X enhanced mode. This meant that when played on the Xbox One, the graphics of Oblivion was improved significantly. The main improvement with the One X enhanced mode was that resolution increased from 600p to 1800p. This was a 3 times increase in the original resolution of both the Xbox One X
That was a good ult. Great job, idiot. Good to know you don't give a flying fuck about us. Piece of shit, I would kick you right now if I could.
Firstly, make sure Oblivion is not running. Then highlight the icon on your Xbox home screen. Just press the menu button, select Manage Game Add-ons. Then in the new screen, go to the left and select Ability Options. Finally, in the new screen, ensure you get this checked.
Video sucked.
things are looking good for Oblivion on the new consoles. Each console brought with it improvement of some kind, with the Xbox Series X providing the best of both worlds, high frame rate and high resolution. When played on the Series X, the game looks good and plays really well, though it should be noted that the Series S frame rate often did exceed that of the Series X, and that was because it was running at a slightly lower resolution than the Series X. There are some limitations to this backwards compatibility program though. There are some limitations based on the game engine, which no amount of GPU or CPU power could overcome. I know the enhancements to the game touched graphics and performance, but they could not touch the original game code. Non-graphical issues such as character animation and NPC AI are obviously not touched with these enhancements. One limitation in the game engine, still evident in the enhanced versions of Oblivion, is draw distance. Objects pop into view as you walk towards them. This is the same on all Xbox consoles, and the pop-up is at the same distance for all consoles. Unfortunately, the pop-in is quite close to the player and it's quite noticeable. I find it quite distracting, to be honest. The close-in draw distance is probably the best indicator that this is a 17-year-old game running in enhanced mode on a new console. I've called this the PC corner. So even though this video is mainly on the Xbox, I'm touching on PC because I know a lot of people play this game on PC as well. Fun fact, this is my original PC version of the game. When I started making this video, I did not have a version of Oblivion installed on my PC, so I took the disk out of here, just something to do, put it into the disk drive of my PC, it installed the game, and ran without any issues or error messages. I'm quite amazed. I'm pretty sure there are not many 17-year-old disk-based Windows games that you can just
I am pretty sure.
PC and run on.
I am pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of games like that. I'm pretty sure not all of the games were goddamn fucking Bethesda cocksucking ripoffs. Not all of them were like that at all. No, I'd say 1 in 20 were like Bethesda.
Windows 11 nowadays.
No, PC games were run. They run most of the time. As long as the disc wasn't scratched, you'd be alright.
It wasn't patched either.
Patch. We didn't hear about patch until Blizzard and Bethesda got too much money. That's when the idea of a patch got really big. Patches were this thing nobody talked about ever. Wow! Fucking idiots.